always do
Recording
it.
now. Recording on both. Hey everyone, welcome to How Do I Know You with your host Mark Dwayne and White Savior Jason.
He's back.
Not many people know, but he was on last week. He was the kid in the middle.
Yep.
He found the fountain of youth.
I did. I can't find it anymore.
And we are the Philosophical Pimps. Today, we are going to talk about something that happened locally here in Long Beach. It happened at a school in Milliken. School at Milliken.
School in
High school.
School in Milliken.
High school.
Clearly, I haven't done this in a while. Clearly, I haven't been talking in a bit. But it happened at a high school called Milliken, and basically, it was a 17-year-old mom. She went there.
No,
Did she go?
an 18-year-old mom.
18-year-old mom.
Yeah, she didn't go there.
Do you guys know the details? I don't know the details
I-
exactly. I just know like the result. I don't know like.
So it was an 18-year-old girl who, I don't know if she's an ex-student. It didn't say that she didn't go there. She wasn't a student on campus. Drove to the high school and got in a fight with a 15-year-old girl.
As you do.
Yes, her boyfriend was the guy driving the car, and
he was what, 20?
He was 20, and then
His
I
little
guess his
brother.
cousin or little brother who was 16 in the car.
Right.
So obviously, I haven't seen anything of the story, so I don't know if that was like a boyfriend and
Right,
all that.
you don't have the
Dispute.
details.
I don't have the details of what the fight was about or what that fight. Because I lived literally like 3 blocks from there.
Right.
Fight went out to the street, as one of the guys said. The older girl being the aggressor and all that went out to the street. Guess the safety officer pulled up, got out or whatever, and that's when they were going in their car. They pull into a parking lot, so they're parked on the street, and they pull in.
So at this point, they're no longer at the school.
So it's technically not the school property, but where it is, it's literally like it's a very fine line
Right.
of where you want to say where they weren't on school property, but where the gate is, it's like right there.
Right.
So I don't know where they were fighting and all this, but the car took off, went around, and to go into the parking lot. It looks like to get away, whatever, and on the video, it shows he gets really close to the security officer, and the security officer fires into the car. I think it was like 2 or 3 rounds, and he shoots the girl, and I believe she was a passenger in the passenger side. She gets shot in the back of the head,
And then she's pronounced brain dead at the hospital. And
like 2 days later.
right. Yeah. The whole shit with this is so technically it's not on school grounds. First of all,
Well,
right? It was like at a.
Well, so when it comes to the school, because I looked into that, the safety officer still has to like keep the law in that for the students.
Right.
So it's kind of like if a police officer, like a school police officer, they're not just because it's on school ground, they're still for the students. They're more there for the students. So
But
I don't
technically, just technically, not on school grounds, and that's the whole
Yeah.
well,
find detail you want to fight over.
I was gonna say that from where I went to high school, technically school grounds, because the way our high school was, there was a back gate that was in a residential area. So this situation would happen a lot at our school, except like the shootings and stuff. But technically for us, I believe it wasn't school ground until you crossed the street. So if it was on the street, on the side of the street with the houses, it was no longer school property. But if they were on the street, the side with the baseball field and the gate, that's considered school property, even though they're outside. My wife also told me, who went to your high school, that was the same for them. Like, across the street was considered no longer school property. So,
Right,
like,
and that's why I use technicalities, because from the video I saw, it seemed like they were parked at a business parking lot.
So right where that business is, there's a driveway that gets behind the business, and then it's like another driveway that's connected. So it's like that double driveway, and that's the school driveway.
Oh, okay.
So it's like it literally.
It is.
Right.
You can go there, and you would have to really go out there with the plans and like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, it is that close.
So there's that, and then do you guys know the difference between a safety officer and just like a regular cop? is he considered a cop? If because I was trying to look it up and just the articles kept coming up, nothing about like what's the difference and shit. Because if not, if he's just like basically a security guard with a gun, which is fucking wild to have a gun on like school campus with, you know, so many school shootings happening already.
From what I remember from our high school days, we had police and the same thing, the safety officers, but they were both armed.
They were both armed,
so there wasn't like a difference or anything like that. But I would say that from what they're asking for, they're trying to ask, it looks like they want Long Beach Police to fire him, so he has to be somewhat associated with.
So that's what it looks like. It's school resource. The United States Department of Justice defines school resource officers as sworn law enforcement officers responsible for safety and crime prevention in the school.
So they do. School safety officers do have somewhat.
I don't think he probably has like a sworn in thing, but it's probably like
there's some kind of training to be that. Probably. You have to, right?
Yes.
With the especially if you're carrying around a gun in high school.
Obviously.
Right. So the thing that like is really. I mean, we've seen it so many times, so it's not like a surprise anymore. But they were driving away, and then that's when he decided to shoot, right? So there's no like, oh, they were just like at the car, not moving, and there was a struggle. I thought I saw a gun. I'm gonna just shoot. No, like they fucking sped out. He decides to shoot as they're driving away, hits in the back of the head. Right there, like I know, like cops live by different laws. Right there, technically above the law in a sense because of how it's set up. How do you justify like shooting at someone that's running away? There is no self-defense.
So with this case, it's because we can sit there and if we just go, okay, the school safety officer should never have shot the girl.
Yeah,
I totally agree. Like he negligent 100%. He should be fired from thing. It wasn't like you said, I didn't feel like there was a threat posed in the video as it's coming around. However, she was an 18-year-old girl that drove there. That's where my issue is she put herself in that situation.
No. Yeah, definitely.
And that's where it's like I feel like I said, I feel horrible that because she was an 18-year-old mom. 18 years old is too young for anyone to die. A mother is too young to die. It's just, but it's like at my thing was when I saw this was like, but she drove to a high school to beat up a child by technicality of law.
Right.
So that's where it's like I feel bad. Yes, my opinion, like I said, that police officer, police safety officer, whatever, should be held liable. He should be fired, and it should be the law needs to prevent that from happening.
Right.
But like I said, at that point, the situations, like I tell everyone, and we've learned this in high school, one action has an equal and opposite reaction.
Right.
And like I said, it's horrible that something like this happened, and most of us will probably never know what the real reason of this fight was.
Right, but even it is horrible, like an adult going to high school to fight a kid, but does that mean they should die? No. Is that equivalent to like the cause and effect, all that shit?
Go ahead. I was gonna say like no, but I hate that we use this for so many things. Like we use the extreme of like we take the situation, oh, no one's supposed to die because of XYZ, right? But on the flip side to it, you can look at this situation and be like, why are two adults and a third person who's a child going to a school to attack a girl, one? So it was two dudes and another girl gonna attack a child. Like, we just omit all that logic.
Yeah.
It's like we go straight to, oh, someone's not supposed to die. Well, it's like, of course. But also, like, this whole situation is fucked up.
Well, and my thing was, what happens if they were fighting in the street and that 15-year-old girl got hit in the head by a passing car and died? Yeah. Are we having the same conversation?
Or what if I don't know, like, I don't know if the fight was on school grounds or not, if they were outside.
That's where no one has any of the video, which I'm like, there has to be some video around because everyone's when I don't even go near that neighborhood because of how many students are walking around at that time. But like, I avoid it.
I just think from the other perspective of the family of the girl who got jumped, what if they end up, beating her to the point where she has ailments or
brain
anything
damage.
like that, right? So, again, it's like I get all the emotion into this situation, but also you have to look at it from a perspective of like adults went and committed a crime. Sadly, this happened. It's fucked up. Like Jason said, like we're saying, like she shouldn't be dead.
No, totally.
He should have never shot, especially because they were driving away.
Exactly.
But the situation of the other side has to be addressed too, as to why was it so easy to do that for two
Yeah.
adults, which is no one's even talking about that. Which that's like I said, Jordan High School is the same exact way. This is every single fight that happened after school. Most hood niggas would just drive to the back, wait until school got out, and then just walk through. Like, and no one ever stopped it.
Yeah.
It was weird, but
It's just, I get all that, but then there's shit that you see like, oh, these fucking mass shooters that were taken down peacefully without getting shot, and on the way to the police station, they go to a drive-through at
Right.
McDonald's or something and feed them, and it's just
Yeah.
like, you see all those people that get treated that way, and then you see one thing in common between them, and then you see the people that get murdered for not even close to like mass shootings and shit like that,
Right.
and they get taken down. And the fact is, like, yeah, everything you guys are saying is valid and all that, but they were driving away, and
yeah,
technically, like on that shit, it's just murder.
Yeah.
It sucks that they committed a crime, but then you can't commit a crime to stop a crime, you know,
Right.
shit like that. And again, so I don't know if there's a loophole now with all the verified live cop shootings and all that shit, to where they can shoot people that are running away now, like in the back, because I've seen it before, like where people have their hands up.
Right.
They're doing everything they're saying and like walking backwards or whatever with their hands up. No, like, you can't say they have a gun with their hands up in the air.
Yeah.
And they still shoot them, and, you know, they get away with it. So is that now just one of these cases where they can do that because cops are just above the law and qualified immunity and all that?
No, I think on September 30th, Newsom passed a new law in California where the police officers can actually lose pensions. They can lose where they can't lateral. Because a lot of times what would happen, police officers would get in trouble from, like, we'll use LAPD since we're in California, would get fired from LAPD and then go to work at somewhere in Orange County.
Yeah.
And now they can't do that. So this police officer, the one thing that is everybody's best ally is there was on video. There's no undisputable evidence. It's an open shut case. There's not going to be like, well, this and this. They're going to look at it and be like, his lawyer was like, we can't plea anything. Goodbye.
the one out would be he was in fear of his life, but the car's driving away.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's what ends it.
Like sputtering with like fucking just skirting away. Just, I don't know, man. It's just, you see all this shit, and like from the get-go, when this shit started with George Floyd, really, right? With all these police, I mean, like the whole wave
Yeah,
from
it
it
was
started with George
a lot
Floyd, and then
of
like
people
there was
before
so
that.
much before that.
Yeah.
So, like from the get-go, people were already tired from this shit. So at this point, it's like, I hear people like, oh, I can't believe it, and they get so upset. And when I hear them and they're telling me, like, the first time I heard about this, I just kept saying like cops are above the law. Like they do this shit because they know they could get away with it. If anything, like the worst thing that's gonna happen to them is they get fired, and then they just go get another cop job somewhere else in the country. Right? And then like there's some areas where that's a plus, that's a bonus. Like, oh, you killed a minority or whatever, fucking you're chief now or something. Probably somewhere in a small town. But like, what do we do at this point with this shit? Like, how can we convince people like, yeah, they committed a crime, they were committing a crime and all that shit, but cops aren't what do you call it, jury and executioner,
Of course,
judge, all that shit.
but at that same point is because the outcome was different for that person. How many times has it been different where the person that was getting beat up was killed?
Right.
How did that person who was assaulting that person become jury and executioner?
Right.
So there's
the difference is like these are sworn in cops, like paid to uphold the law,
and so that so you would have to sit there and say there's training that's an issue,
right? Which is it's always an excuse, right?
but there's you got to look at there's training as an issue for that, and like we can always say it's always an excuse, but isn't there training then as parents shouldn't be they train their kids to do stuff? So that's the thing, like, and that's what gets lost always in any debate with anything with this is we always will go to the extreme and want to hold the one group accountable because of the training.
Yeah.
There's no accountability for holding to anybody else outside of this training. So like I said, I think it's a shame. I feel horrible. But if that lady would have been like, you know what, I'm just gonna wait until she gets in this neighborhood, then beat her ass, I guarantee we'd have a different outcome. And that's the thing. And it's sad that it has to go down like this, because this isn't going to be the last case that this is going to happen. It's going to go down and down. And this is where we need to have those resources for schools, especially if you're going to have people. I've always been a firm believer, if you're going to have school police officers, there should always be double. You have a school police officer and you have a counselor that works for the school.
Right. Someone that's paid
So
for
you
it.
have those two people there. You have one that works for the school, and that's one that provides a safety for the school.
Right.
So I've always been that, like, hey, you're gonna have now we won't have issues. We shouldn't have issues like
Right,
this.
but even with that, like, it's the reason cops don't rat on each other, because technically they're in a gang. So if you rat on someone that you're in a gang with, then now you're on an island by yourself. You can keep your job probably because they can't fire you, but they're gonna try every fucking shit to fire you, to give you problems with your job now. So these two people have to work together. Like in the scenario you brought up, they have to work together now, be in each other's lives. Is the counselor, whoever has to hold the cop accountable, is he really gonna do that?
So
Well, no.
So hold on real quick. You just said that before, that they're like a gang and they have to hold each other responsible, account for their lives. So if they're working at a high school, why would they have to worry about their lives? That's the thing.
That's
if high schools have to have police officers with guns, then we can't just sit there and say, oh, the police officer. I went to high school, different area than you guys. They didn't have guns, so now they do at the high school I went to. So is it really that the police officers were needed, or was it the people that weren't being policed by their parents properly and they acted a fool that got the police officers in the school? And now it's like I said, it's a wave. So we had that parents where they weren't parents, and you see it in some of these kids. And I'm not saying that this lady's parents were not parents. I'm just saying that as society, and some of these people that weren't supervised by their parents or had good role models during their childhood are police officers, are doctors, are lawyers, and all this other stuff. We just see them when it's in this light. We never saw them. It's like, that dude's like, I know so many police officers. I'm like, that dude's a dickhead.
Yeah.
I know him. He's a dick.
Yeah.
But then there's some that's like, that dude's really good. A really good guy. Sorry.
I was just gonna say, like, every time these situations come up, right? There are a lot of emotions get into it, and for obvious reasons, because when you look at people from whatever background they have, you take our background, you take your background, we're gonna have difference of opinion on it. But I always look at just make it as logical as possible with a lot of this shit, and it sucks, but that's how it's gonna get played out anyway. Like, people always want to make the emotional aspect of, like, oh, if we just take out cops, or if they did this and that, and it's like, okay, logically, is that gonna happen? No, right? So, but my question for a lot of people who want to go this route, let's say that we did do away with cops, right? In areas like this or whatever, right? A lot of people say, oh, we police ourselves. I don't necessarily believe in that, because you've been in this neighborhood your whole life. I've been in this neighborhood a huge portion of my life. Like, stuff just didn't get taken care of.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, like, the idea that we have this huge push for, like, oh, let's get away from law enforcement. Me personally, on camera, I'm not a person that really messes with law enforcement like that. But I can say that, and also I can also look at myself and be like, I have to deal with the consequences of what comes with that as well, right? But a lot of people don't want to deal with that. They want to, on one hand, be like, cops are horrible. We don't need cops. But they're the same people, when something happens, call the police. So, like, when situations like this come up, I wish people had an actual, like, plan. Don't make it emotional. Don't be like, see, this is why cops need to get the fuck out of here and all that stuff, blah, blah, blah. This is why, like, the neighborhood needs to be fixed and everything like that. Cool, we understand that. These have been constants for, like, 30, 40 years in areas just like this. But what's the solution to this? Because you're not going to get rid of cops. And you're not going to fix the neighborhood.
The council members and the people who run the cities.
One of the solutions I've heard about, at least, where I can't remember if it was Colorado or Portland, Either way, they got rid of qualified immunity there, right? So
Okay.
cops don't no longer have that. Plus, they also have like they have to wear body cams, and if at any time while they're arresting or doing whatever, like in any kind of situation, if they turn it off or they obstruct it, already it's inadmissible.
Oh, yeah.
They get away with it,
Yeah.
like they're
Real quick. Now, you said that. I'm cool with that, right? Are you cool with that?
Oh, hell,
Okay.
Yeah, 100%.
Now, the flip side to that is the people who decide to be cops, which are usually 9 times out of 10 military people, ex-military, all this stuff, right? If they aren't cool with that for whatever reason, right? I feel like now you're going into the same cycle because now you're getting the people who might have some qualifications. They've been in active duty, active combat. They can deal with pressure situations. And then now you're going back to pulling regular people, putting them in these situations and saying, hey, since these guys don't want to do it, you do it. Do you think it would be better that way if we didn't have people who, and I know it's not the best training, but they at least have some sort of background in your life's on the line? Because a lot of people, again, they look at this shit and they're like, oh, all these ex-military dudes, they come fucked up and they go to be cops and they're assholes. I agree, because there is a large portion of them that do that shit, right? But on the other hand, is fucking Billy, who's been protected his whole life, gonna get out there and protect you now? When someone has a gun to their head? You know what I mean? Like, again, I just look at it from, what are the alternatives? Because the same thing last year when all this shit was happening, a lot of cops were quitting and they were saying, fuck this, right? And that's cool, that's their right. But on the flip side to it, a lot of, in other areas and shit like that, crime was going up and people are like, we're the police. So I was sitting there being like, well, I mean, like, you can't say, I don't want this on one hand, and then when shit happens, say, where you guys at?
It also sucks that we have to we got to deal with bullshit from cops just so that crime doesn't, we have to take shit from them
Right.
just to, that's a fucking insane way to think about it, but it is the reality.
Yeah, and that's the fucked up shit where I'm saying that a lot of this shit comes from, sadly, the world, but people personalize it and make it like all cops are fucked up, and we know that's not true.
Yeah.
Or they make it people who live in these neighborhoods, they're all animals and criminals. That's not true. But because society has made it to where we only push the negative shit, we highlight the shit that gets that it's horrible, but we look at it like, oh, it's so great, and we romanticize all this shit. Of course, the person who's watching from the outside looks at it and then goes, oh my god, these people are fucking animals. This is why that cop should have shot that girl. Oh my god, this girl came and tried to beat up a child and all this shit. But they don't understand. We can look at it and be like, okay, what probably happened? Probably there was some shit talking somewhere. This had been brewing for probably a while.
Yeah.
And then she just decided, I'm gonna try to do the, I guess, cool thing, and I'm gonna pull up on her, and then
Super
this
cool to
happened.
beat up a 15-year-old.
But
It's
you
insane.
probably,
That's how they think. That's how they
probably
think.
was at that school.
Yeah, all right.
By her age last year. So it's
I
like,
bet you the 15-year-old was fucking around with that 20-year-old, and instead of holding the person responsible, the 20-year-old pedophile probably she went after that, as most people do. But all the stuff you're saying, how you were saying, the whole oh, we gotta train the kids and blah blah blah, that stuff. Cool, but let's say she didn't get shot. Let's say she beat up the kid. They drove off. They reported it. Then someone beat a 15-year-old. That person, that girl that got shot, she would have been held responsible for her crimes, right?
Yeah,
once they caught her, she would have been held responsible. But then that's the issue. We're held responsible for our crimes, but cops are never held responsible. And that's the thing. With what's going on in Colorado, where they got rid of all that stuff, that's a very tiny step to holding cops responsible for shit,
right.
and putting them back within the law. Because
See, that's a solution.
but
Yeah.
that is,
Like-
and that's what I was gonna say.
Yeah, and that's something that a lot more people should be saying. But what you see online is the opposite. And again, for people out there who are listening to this, they're gonna say well, no, people say that too. But you have to search for it. That's the difference.
That's not the people screaming at the
The,
top of
the
the
hate,
Exactly.
the hate outweighs the rational thinkers.
But
Right.
I get it, because let's say it did start with the whole we gotta hold these cops responsible, and we keep saying it, blah blah blah, and then it turned into what it is now, and that's the shit. They never did anything to be okay, we gotta stop our people from doing this shit.
Right.
Like these crazy moments and like just doing shit like someone's handcuffed, the cop is escorting him to the car, and then another cop that's like walking down the same way just fucking knocks the dude out. It's just like like this shit like that, and it's like, okay, like there's nothing happens to that dude.
Right.
Because while he was being escorted to the car, he was talking shit to me. It's just like, oh, so we can't talk shit to the people like we pay our taxes for and shit like that. They get more money than any other thing in the city.
Well, I don't want to say, well, yeah, but Biden last night was like, you can't yell at the public at school teachers. I'm like, we pay tax. I'm like, okay.
Like we can do it. Like it's just crazy.
But I agree. I think, and that's like when you see it on cameras, like there should be. I don't even know why it is even evidence. Like, oh well, look at the guy was talking trash. No, you punched the dude in the face while you were walking by.
While he was handcuffed.
That's like right there. Boom, done.
And then there's always just how they twist stories to make cops look good no matter what. So there was this like a news Twitter thing that had a picture of a 13-year-old black kid getting arrested, and like cops were just like fucking on top, like a whole bunch of cops were on top of him. One of them had like his arm around his neck, like choking him shit. And the caption for like the tweet was just like blah blah blah, cops allegedly have to, something about like allegedly putting his arm around his neck. And then someone like retweeted the thing quoting it saying like allegedly, like you see it in the fucking picture that you posted there, like he's doing it. And it's shit like that. It's just,
but that's right there. That was the media though. And that's what you got to remember. That's what the media did
they all talk to each other.
Until so long ago. It was always pro police, regardless what it is. And now, this is where I say this generation is bringing in all this change, and they're like, no, we're calling you out on your bullshit.
Yeah, every time.
And that's what's coming up. But we still have to, and that's where I'm like firm believer in the police department. I have family members who are police officers, were police officers, retired. So far as I know, none of them are douchebags that I've heard of. Personally, that I know them, I don't think they're douchebags, and I think a couple of my brothers are. So that tells you what I think. But I still feel like we're always pointing that finger at this, but we always have to remember it's a human aspect, and that's where I always say if we are policing them when they're young and raising them to be right, the police officers will get better, and then the criminals will be, well, there's never a good criminal, but hopefully then we won't have so many as criminals.
I would say this, I would ask you guys this: where do the excuses stop for police officers? Like, where is it just like open and shut? Like, yeah, like he fucked up. There's no.
Sadly, with the cards that were dealt, I look at cops the same way I look at politicians. Because at the end of the day, when you get on that other side, you are above a lot of shit because you know all the loopholes, you know exactly what the fuck's gonna happen, you know what you need to say and what you not need to say to get out of shit. So,
and you got the money to pay off the right people.
Exactly. So like the what needs to happen is what is happening now, which is they're implementing more video cameras and doing more shit like that, because what's gonna happen is it's gonna be like roll your eyes when it happens. Someone who's not of color will end up getting fucked up really bad, and then this will cause a wave of people choosing to stand up about cops and all this other shit, right? And it's gonna suck. So we're gonna sit there and be like, "Oh, really?
No, now it's finally gonna happen."
That was happening recently, right? With there was like a missing black girl or white girl. I can't remember, but there was
the
like
white girl, where Joy Reid was like the missing white woman syndrome.
Yeah, and all that.
Patrice O'Neal.
But my thing is this, and this is where when I stood on that one, it was like, but you're the media. You report it. You blame the media first before you report any of this. It's not like the police are saying, "Lo, you go on the media."
Oh no, they were blaming the media on this thing. They were just like, "What the fuck is going on?"
Yeah, this is where it should be.
And that's the thing. Like, it's the same thing. It's just I fucking just hate that it has to happen to a white person for everyone to care. Same thing with like Roe v. Wade.
Yeah.
Like people all over that like were getting like these crazy back alley abortions, and they were waiting for the right person so they could plead their case, and it was her. Made more sense back then because of how everything was, but like now today with the people thinking like, oh, things are different. What do you mean racism doesn't exist anymore and blah blah blah. Just like it's there, man. It's just so ingrained in like how the world is. You're blind to it.
Right, and that's why for a lot of stuff that happens when it comes to the media, society has put a face on every culture.
Yeah.
So outside of fucking America, you are whatever the media has portrayed you as, right? So a lot of shit sucks because we know that's not true because we interact with people and it's like, no, they're not like that, right? But that's why I always say people need to get off the internet and go the fuck outside. Go outside, experience shit because it's totally...
Yesterday helped him a little bit.
Well, see, but I was going to get to that. With fucking like Facebook and Instagram going down, right? Literally everyone was freaking the fuck out. Like, oh, we have to talk to people. We have to actually like pay attention to shit. But with everything that happened yesterday was IG being down and Facebook being down, it forced people to actually have to pay attention to shit, right? And you actually had to talk to people and actually had to experience things. And even when... What?
Do you think that's why they did it? The hackers?
Well, yeah.
But like, so this because they could... Oh, well, they wouldn't really
Well,
talk
wasn't
about like
because
some local
everyone
event.
was saying because of that whistleblower shit.
Nah. But with Facebook being down yesterday, Instagram being down yesterday, to me it proved that even when you take these away from people, it's too late for like society because we are stuck to our devices. We're stuck to needing this. To bring up the whole the report, the 60-minute report the night before, literally a whistleblower went in and said, oh, Facebook is pushing and promoting hate because their analytics have shown that they can incite all these things and make it happen. It went out. Nobody cared. The next day, we all were complaining we didn't have these devices, we didn't have these social media apps and everything like that. And when you look at something like police and everything, to me, it's all stuff that's pushed because on one hand, you have, I feel like every other day you see either, depending on your algorithm, you see fucking...
Why my algorithm?
I don't know. You're fucking...
I got parent
We've
shit
seen
going
this
on.
lot.
But you see...
It's just a birthmark.
I've seen cops mistreat people, shoot people. I see it almost every day, right? Yeah. But that's my algorithm, right? On the flip side of my algorithm, I also see people in areas like this doing what they do, right? So, of course, if I'm not a person who's from somewhere like this, I can look at that and be like, oh my God, what the fuck is going on over there, right? And then look at the police and be like, what the fuck, they're terrible, right? Yeah. But the other people, they don't see that shit. So, of course, when they see us in these videos, that's what they think. They will never deal with it.
Well, it was like when I moved back east, and they're like, do you know celebrities? Like, because I'm from California, they ain't just walking down the street. Like,
exactly. Like, the flip side to it, a lot of people who haven't dealt with the police, and probably never will, they'll see that and be like, these guys are awful. Like, you see this shit? And I'm like, well, again, you have to deal with them too. Like, you can't just say that from the outside looking in, but you ain't never been arrested. You ain't never actually had to deal with that shit.
It just really sucks when you think about the basics of like cops are supposed to be this, and
right.
You could say it's because of movies and like, you know, the stories and all that stuff.
They've been romanticized.
Yeah, yes. Like a whole bunch to where like, oh, nobody could really do that. You have to be like, you know, like cops and criminals are just the same. What do you call it? Two different sides of the same coin.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of shit. So they have to be similar, but. It's just these small things that I want changed. Like, hold them more responsible. Get rid of qualified immunity. Because what does qualified immunity help? Like, oh, cops might like have to deal with some bullshit.
It's one sided because it only helps them.
Yeah, it only helps them like completely. And if they got rid of it, then yeah, maybe like some good cop will get like screwed over by something. But that's still better than a whole bunch of cops getting away with murder. Right. When it's like clear, it's just like, oh, there's people
it's like
that were
evening the level because how it's been for years.
Exactly, and like it's just we could avoid shit like. Do you guys remember a long time ago there was that video of like I can't remember if he was like autistic or something, but he was in the middle of the street. He was like an old person, autistic, not a kid.
Oh, there was a black kid too, same thing.
Yeah, no, he was black too. He was like playing with the truck in the middle of the street, and then like his I don't want to say handler, but like person taking care of him was like on the side,
and like shot the handler.
Yeah, like they shot the handler, and I think they almost shot the kid too. But it was just like he was trying to he was on the ground trying to talk to the kid, trying to tell the cops like, hey, like he has issues, like he can't understand you and your commands and all that stuff, and then they just shot him, and it's just like it. How beyond tired are you guys like of this shit? Like it's just
completely
to the point where we have to be like, nah, it's excuses, and it's just like we keep giving these excuses to the cops, and it just doesn't end, man. It's just like everything Jason was saying, like what you were saying. It's like valid. We got to raise our kids better and like to stop doing this shit and all that crap. But saying that gives an excuse to a cop, and then it also makes them feel better. Like, oh yeah, no, it was the parents' fault. Like if they didn't raise the kid to be this way, then I would have to shoot them.
But that's the thing.
But I mean, like, it just gives them like that like, yeah, I didn't do anything wrong, and
But they should still be held accountable. I'm still saying that we are always going to point fingers at the one side of going, hey, we hold them accountable.
Right.
But we're not ever going to the other side, hold them just as equally accountable.
Right.
There's, just like you said, there's two sides to every coin.
Yeah.
So if we're holding 100% accountability to this side, 100% accountability should be held to this side.
This situation was a perfect storm of
Exactly. It was just fucked up from the first second of them getting in their car. Just like, we're driving to go fight a girl.
yeah,
First instinct, it was like, nope. And then the end result is horrible. And like I said, this dude needs to be held accountable. He needs to lose whatever license he has. He needs to be going to prison.
yeah. I just think, like, anytime you say anything like, oh, but this girl or whatever, any kind of thing like that when it comes to a cop killing somebody like this in this scenario, then it doesn't help. Like, what does it help saying like, oh, the girl shouldn't have done it in the first place? It's like, yeah, but it's like,
it's a fact. It's
it is a fact, but it gives the cops room, it gives the media room to do all this bullshit, the song and dance, and then you forget, like, oh yeah.
But see, again, they gonna do that anyway.
Yeah.
Like, and you're a parent.
If that was my kid, that was a 15-year-old girl. That's what I look at.
What if your kid was 18?
If my kid was a 18-year-old girl, I'd be pissed that my daughter was there. But I'd also be saying that this person should be held up to their
Right,
their
but
stuff.
would you ever say publicly, like,
No, I would.
my daughter,
No,
right?
I would definitely say my daughter. I don't bullshit people. If my daughter did something wrong, my daughter did something wrong. I'm going to be the first one to sit there and say that.
Right.
And that's what I feel is wrong with society is when parents don't hold their own children accountable. My kids, I police them in public. We don't see parents. I see little shithead kids storming up and down. I want this. It's like, no, my mom would have just either went to the belt aisle, wherever store we're at, and just grabbed one.
Your mom wasn't real. She had to go down the aisle.
No, well, my mom.
You know, if you were real, like, she would have made you go get the belt.
No, because my mom knew I
Maybe
just
a
walked
fucking
out.
switch.
But that's the thing, and that's where I feel we will always. And I'm not trying to be the person saying, well, you got to stick with police. No, I still think they need to be held accountable.
Yeah.
But I feel like we just use that as an excuse all the time of giving that other person, well, they're not being held accountable. And we'll at this point we should hold the police officer more accountable because their crime is bigger. No, a crime's a crime, regardless of what it is. Everyone. No, but
Steal a candy bar or kill somebody.
I,
Crime is a crime.
no,
But
but
it's gonna be my excuse. Crime is a crime, bitch.
but that's the thing.
I'm gonna kill candy bar after this.
Okay, but you said you. But no, come on.
Sorry. No, I know what you're saying.
Okay.
No, I'm just giving you shit, and with everything, but it's just at the end of the day, like, that's how ridiculous this all is. When I hear excuses for cops, it sounds ridiculous to me because it's like, no, let's hold the cops accountable, and then let's talk about, like, the shit that the 18-year-old did wrong. Like, yeah, that was wrong and everything, but that shouldn't overtake the fact that she got murdered. And that's the thing. Like, most of the time, these things, what the person did overtakes what the cop committing the murder did.
So, what's more important, the police and the cops, or police and the community?
Right now, policing the cops, just because they're doing fucking too much.
So, with that being said, once the cops are policed, and, like, let's say that does get fixed,
Right.
now would you scream the same way for the community if everything stayed the same? Would you also be out here being like, this shit needs to change, or would you feel like since I lived like this and I've grown up like this, it's fine?
No, it definitely needs to be better, and there's like a whole bunch of other stuff. It's just first, like, the cops thing is like the biggest issue to me, at least right now, and then just fixing the community, like, fucking get people in these areas that actually own the houses. Like, at least the theory of mine is, like, the reason these
That's gentrification.
not gentrification, like I don't know, like, whatever the good way of gentrifying a place is. You know, I'm not talking about getting rich people and, like, buying houses over here. I'm talking about people that live here that, like, we know and are our community members, like, actually buying up the places here, if, like, you know, a reasonable housing market could ever fucking occur. Because one of my theories, and I don't know if I heard this from somewhere or just like a genius that made this up, but if you just rent in an area, you don't really care about the neighborhood. Like you're like, I don't own this property here. I don't get any kind of benefits from the city, all this shit, all this crap. So yeah, why would these people take care of the area? Like there's a reason these streets are like dirty. Why would they call the city to like fix up the street with all these cracks in it and like all this shit?
Well, how many times or how often do you go to like Compton and shit?
Not often.
Okay, so Compton has literally been shitty since about, honestly, like the 90s to now, and it's gotten worse, right? And there's been like a huge outcry of people saying we need to vote, we need to do this and that, and it happens in Compton. Like mayors and shit, they elect who they want to have, right? Still nothing happens, right? And it has nothing to do with like, again, we have this idea of, if we get the people involved and they do this and then we'll be able to overcome. No, because again, these communities, these districts, they are built and created to be what they're gonna be. I told Jason on some other shit, but I was like, Long Beach will turn into a fucking hotbed as soon as we get a stadium. That's when everything will switch, and they gonna try to move your ass out, his ass out, damn near everybody. And then the same way, like most people, especially like during the high school days for us, most people who started to move over here were coming from Compton, Carson, like all places that got too expensive. And then they came to here because it was all right.
To buy or to rent, though?
To rent.
Okay.
But that's a whole different other thing because, again, most people who live over here or are minorities, right?
Yeah.
That goes into systemic racism, the wealth gap, all that other shit, which, again, that's a whole bigger thing that we have to deal with.
Right.
So already you losing, right? But most people, when you get money, right, I get money, we're not gonna live in these areas. You're not gonna buy a house over here. Why?
I like it.
But you're not.
You know what? I'm going to say what I have to say to win this argument, even though I won't do it now.
No, but it's the truth. Like, most people, because you're just being smart, you're not going to do that.
Yeah.
You're going to live somewhere where now you feel more comfortable, more safe, right? But that's what happens. So then that's how gentrification works, because other people who won't fucking live here, who have the money, will be like, oh, I can rent that shit out to somebody else and everything like that, right? So that's why, to me, I lean on the side of, if we could do both at the same time, do it. If we can fix the community and the cops, do both. But if whatever's more important to me, the community, because if we fix that shit, then they have to police the cops. Because now we're a fucking expensive ass community. You will not do this shit in Lakewood. You will not do this shit in Cerritos or wherever else.
The only reason, well, not the only reason, but one of the reasons I want it to be the other way around, where like we police the cops first, is because if we do that, then we take away their insanely huge budget, and because we take away the insanely huge budget, we put it towards like the schools, the streets, fixing up all that shit, making it look pretty.
But we do that, but also we've seen since they've been lowering police in a lot of these cities, crime's gone up.
Right.
California alone, crime's gone up. So if we just are focusing all on fixing the police, those criminals are just going to have that rise of power. So now how are you, when your police is here and your criminals are here, how do you bring it back? Well, all that budget you just sent over here, guess what it's going to have to go back to? Right here. And then we're right back to square one.
Right, and then there's a whole other thing about like, can we trust those numbers? Like, are they just doing that so that we could be like, see, you need cops and we need the money and blah blah blah? Because even with all this money that they have, like, it's not like crime has gone down that much, you know.
And we'll never notice it.
Exactly. Like crime, like you say, crime has gone up, but like I haven't noticed anything different around here.
But
really,
but that's
right.
Yeah.
And then the flip side to it, that's why I say it's more of a political thing, because they don't really give a fuck what you think.
Yeah.
Because you're not bringing in any money to them. You're not donating to them. Yeah. Whatever their bottom dollar is, that's what they're gonna push. And right now, they might be pushing police reform and all this shit. Cool. Give it another election cycle. They'll be like, look at the streets, look at the crime.
They care about two things: election and re-election. Nothing else. Nothing else.
I just think if we took away like the budget from the cops and really gave it to like shit that's needed in the community, like schools, not like teaching kids.
No, and I totally agree.
Fixing up like the streets, simple things. Like I think I've said this before. Like there's a reason there's a shitload of potholes in bad neighborhoods, right? They don't want to fix it, and then people that actually have cars in these bad neighborhoods to go to work and they rely on it heavily. One day they drive over a pothole, a tire pops out. Now they can't go to work. Now they have to pay to fix this up. And
so I live on the other side of Long Beach.
Yeah.
And like you said it earlier, people rent here. They don't care.
Yeah.
So in my neighborhood where everyone buys, if there's a pothole, you don't think my wife's not that Karen on the phone like, you need
Yeah.
to fix this pothole. So that it's if
The Karen on the phone.
But
Just heard what
also,
you said.
yeah, talk about the other flip side to that. is,
I get because of everything that was in the past. Like anytime you would call, it's like it's just creating more of an issue. Sometimes.
well, no, not even that. You're saying like you live on the other side of Long Beach,
Yeah.
right? The flip side to that is you've talked about how like a black person moved in the neighborhood and everyone was like, like, and you
All
see,
in unison. It was crazy.
like, in
I know it was very loud. I was like, "What the hell? What the hell?"
Black
But-
guy moved into the neighborhood.
You growing up, how you grew up was just like that's fine, but everyone else was like, "What the fuck? The neighborhoods, we're losing it and everything like that."
Well, it was just a couple neighbors
Right.
that did it because we have like I sound bad like we have. But, there are other black families on our block that are on the other end of the block, and I'm like, yo, that end of the block always seems like a lot better than mine. And you've been to my house,
Right,
but
yeah.
it's like I always feel like my square, the houses around, it's like. I was happy when there was another black family right across the street. I'm like, oh, thank God. Like, I like watching my neighbors, their head go, like,
See, that's in a dream scenario. That's what I want out of the community. I want to see more intermixing of shit.
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
have a Jason, Jamal.
Because then the myths and the
Mexican.
boogeyman stories, they start to fade away.
right.
Because all right now, when you're not around it at all, and it's just stories, you get scared. You fucking psych yourself out and just be like, oh, this is what they all must do. And every time you see
Exactly.
when you clutch your pearls and your purse and shit like that, but then once you start, everyone starts fucking, in the melting pot. It's just
Yeah.
like, oh, everyone's just the same. It's just
same.
about like we all deal with the same shit. We all have the same annoyances. Like,
well, that's like when me and our friend Jim and Dwayne go out to dinner. We just fuck with them. The waiters and waitresses see us. They're like, "What the fuck
Yeah.
is this?"
it's just, I wish more people were like us.
Yes.
Like in the grand sense of like the whole thing where everyone's just making.
Well, I think there probably is a lot of people like us. We just don't, like we said before, that hate speech
Yeah.
outweighs all those other shit.
Yeah, and most people aren't gonna you ain't gonna try to talk over someone yelling.
Yeah.
You're gonna be like, fuck it.
I mean, like more like neighborhoods,
Yeah.
like us, like we all live in the same block kind of thing, and it's just kind of that's how it goes.
Yeah.
It would I think it would help the community a lot. Everyone would stop fighting and then actually start building towards stuff, and then the whole cop issue would just be done with because they're being held responsible. Like if that Colorado thing, it could happen just everywhere. Like I don't understand why it doesn't. I don't.
It's
understand.
slowly but surely. It's
know what I mean?
taking that the one step that you figure what Newsom did on the 30th. That's a big step, and especially in California because you figure how many police officers. New York and California have the most police officers. So now this is a perfect step to then now you have this where you're holding them accountable. Now you can bring that in.
Yeah.
So it's at least California has made that stride to do that. So
Yeah. I mean, hopefully it just keeps like gaining
and
traction,
building from it.
steam, all that. Just
agreed.
because just cops just need to be held more responsible.
And that's what I'm saying. If a crime's a crime,
Yeah.
even if it's a cop committing that crime, like you said, still in candy bar, guess what? They're committing that crime. And murder, they committed that crime. They should be held accountable. If Dwayne did it, I did, or you did it.
Yeah.
Everyone should be held on that same thing. Well, you don't think you should be held accountable the same? No. All right. Me, I guess.
We should. All three of us should be above the law. I think it would be a better world.
Might be.
For us.
Might be.
But yeah, I feel like we're gonna start just on the detailed shit and go in circles. But what does everyone out there think about this subject? I know it was we talked about it for a long time, like on previous episodes, but again, it's more recent.
Right.
And this
In
is
our neighborhoods.
in our neighborhood, and the fact that the person was driving away and they shot her in the back of the head just adds a whole other element to everything else. So what do you guys think about it? Let us know. You can find us at youtube.com/howdoknowyou. You can find us anywhere podcasts are available. You can find us at hdicky.com. You can find us, put them up there. You can find who's on first, all there. And our socials at HDIKY1. My personal one's Mr. Lucky 005.
Mine is at Salinas Jason.
And on Twitter, DC Junior 13. On Instagram, DC Junior 113. But like we always say, if I don't know,
And you don't know.
Who really knows?
how do I know you? Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. We'll see you guys next week. Peace. Oh, stop.